Good evening and a very warm welcome to both our speakers and our audience to the Literature Live Brightness of Book series. I am Reena Agrawal from Literature Live. Our book this evening is A Full Life by Sabira Merchant. It's a pleasure to have with us this evening the author herself and etiquette trainer Sabira Merchant in conversation with journalist and author Gauri. Before I invite Gauri to take the evening forward, may I remind you all to send in your questions for the Q&A segment, which will be held by the end of the session, or rather towards the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Gauri.
Thank you, Reena. Welcome, Sabira. It's such a pleasure to be talking to you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Your book is so interesting and indicative of your having lived a rich and fulfilling life. So would you tell all of us watching, what prompted you to come out with your memoir, A Full Life?
Well, it was a very strange thing, really, that happened. As you know, I teach speech and diction and public speaking, etc., to groups of people, to children, to adults, to everybody across the board. And at such a meeting, somebody told me, why don't I publish my book, which is a manual that I had written with words like taught and taught and sought and sought, and words like that, the differentiation between them, because we Indians, unfortunately, don't have a very good accent. And this highlights the accent and the speaking skills. They said, why don't you publish this book? That'll be a great success and people will buy it and learn from it. And the person at that time who was in charge took me to Jericho Books. I went there and I spoke to them, and I thought, hello, this subject sounds so dry. Why don't we do something better than that? Why don't we write a little bit about my life? Maybe that would be more interesting. So they agreed and they said, I think it's a good idea and let's go ahead and do it. So that's how the idea was born and that's how it was brought forward.
Fantastic. You know, you're speaking about your life. In the reading of your book, one line holds special significance, almost as a keynote in your life. The presence of the kindness of strangers. This line was also made memorable by the character Blanche Dubois in Tennessee Williams' play Streetcar Named Desire, a role you performed to many accolades yourself, including your win of the All India Cricket Critics Association Award in 1981. So would you tell us, how did this particular line shape the person you are today, maybe with a few instances?
Well, 1981, when you said that, it seems such a long way away. It's 1981, yes. I remember that. I remember acting in the play. It was so wonderful. And I also remember the fact, I have to share this with the audience too, is that Alec and myself, and of course the whole troupe, we were down in Delhi for the performance of the play. And because it was so popular, we had two shows in the day. So we had a 3:30 and a 6:30. And then the Information and Ministry for Broadcasting came forward and said they wanted to visit it and they wanted a 9:30 show. So Alec came and asked me, would it be possible ever to think of doing a third show? And I said, Alec, you would kill me. How does that possibly do that? Recover from that madness that Blanche Dubois goes through and then do a 6:30 and then do a 9:30? So Alex said, no, I think we can manage. I think you can do it. If anyone can do it, you can do it. And of course, I took the challenge and we did a 9:30 show at that time. And it was just an incredible happening. It was just so magnificent. I cannot tell you. The audience stood up and clapped and it was amazing. And of course, the last line of hers is that I have always depended upon the kindness of strangers. And you'd be surprised, Sometimes now when I'm a little bit older, I needed more help sometimes to climb down from the aircraft or something. But I'd always find a young man then, he'd come and say, ma'am, would you like some help? And there he is, a stranger helping me in the supermarket. When I visited, there are people who come forth and say, come on, let me help you with getting your packages together. So you see, I think it's a thread that goes through life. And you also have to kind of look for it. So when I look at someone's eyes and appealingly look at them, they come forth and they help you. So I think that thread has been going through my life, and it has been one of my mainstays.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned that Alex sprung this on you and he said, do this 9:30 show. And I'm going to relate my third question to that because you were prepared, you went through with it, even though you didn't know. So I want to know, I'm going to stretch into that question. So I'm going to say, you went to a finishing school in Switzerland where everything was taught in French, a language unfamiliar to you. Yet you prepared diligently and even got the teacher's praise at your command of it later. How important is preparation before the pursuit of any goal? And I want to ask you this from the prism of the fact that has also what you teach to all those who come to you to learn etiquette is to be prepared for eventualities of all sorts.
Yes, you have to be prepared for all eventualities. But I'll tell you one thing, what really taught me about this, apart from the fact that my father prepared me when I was very young, but it was theater that really trained me. The first foray I had into theater was when I did the costumes for Hamlet. And from that moment onwards, I realized what timing was all about and what preparation, how important preparation was for anything in life. So I prepare for even when I go out 2 days in advance. I take everything out and keep it ready. I match my stuff, and there I don't have to have any tension. Everything is ready. So similar when I'm going for a trip.
You make lists.
I make lists. I'm a big list maker. That's how Alec and I got along so famously. We wrote everything down. So when Alec heard I was making lists, he said, that's my girl. And that's how we got along so famously.
No, absolutely. So I'm going to lead in from your theater, the whole thing about theater, you know, when you say the theater bug bit you, and in the book you say you bit it right back. Your debut on stage was actually as a schoolgirl who descends a swinging rope ladder, even though at that time you were a wife and a mother of 3. Tell us a little about your excitement at the opportunity, given that you and those around you would be revered later as the biggest names on the English stage. And also, you know, tell us a little about your excitement, because the fact is it came from the glitterati on the English theatre at that time, Alec and Pearl Padamsee.
Yes, that was an amazing part of my life. I remember going for the interview to Alec and Pearl, and they said, what makes you think you would be good in this part? Mind you, never having acted before, never having done anything on stage, except one simple little thing in school. I said, I think I'll be good at the role that you put me in, whatever role you put me in, and I think you should give me a chance. So there they asked me to read. I read for the role, and of course they liked it very much. They wanted it with a slight French accent at that time, which then they changed later on, and they said, no, make it just a direct accent. So then we spoke straight English, and they had cast me as the schoolgirl, and I was the mother of 3 kids by then. So I thought to myself, hello, here I am coming down this rope ladder. And I've got to tell you something really funny, because I didn't realize that coming down the rope ladder, you know, your panties could be seen.
Oh
and
my God.
Yes, the first time I did it, I said, oh my goodness, we never practiced this in rehearsal. We just said, I'm coming down the rope ladder, and that was it. We've never actually gone down a rope ladder. So there I had to correct it, and we had to wear bloomers, you know, like we used to wear in school, if you remember. I mean,
yes, absolutely. Those long bloomers, yes.
Those long bloomers, which sort of tightened up at just above the knee. elasticized to keep your modesty with you. So it was so funny in that first play, and it was in the basement of a dental college. And it was
Wow.
very interesting. It's perhaps one of the most interesting plays that I've done because the audience were all sitting on crates, on empty crates. There was no seating. It was like it was in a fallout shelter. So
Right, because the play was supposed to be a nuclear shelter, right? That was
that's right. So it was a nuclear fallout shelter, and all these empty crates were there. Of course, the crates were supposed to be full of food, which this family had collected. And out
correct.
from this outer world comes this girl walking down the rope ladder and getting into this little family that was sitting there in the fallout shelter. So that was what my first play was about. And I said I bit it right back because then I went into other roles immediately. I got very good reviews. In those good old days, we used to have Mr. Matthews from the Times of India. And he would write the review the next day, and we would sort of hardly sleep that night, wondering what his review was about, because the audiences were so meager in those days. They were just like about 4 or 5 houses that you would get, not like today when you run for years on end. So like when I did the Buckingham Secret, of course, we ran for a long time. It ran for a long time, and it was every weekend, and it was an amazing, like a huge theater, and absolutely full every time we performed. In those days, we had to look out for audiences, and one wrong mention, one poor mention, and that means you just had two, 3 houses, and that's the end of it. You have to wind up that show, and all the hard work that you have put in, all those weeks and months of practice comes to naught.
But it must have been an exciting time because you all became then the torchbearers of all that English theatre stood for. You all became iconic at the end of it all.
Yes, that's true. You are right. With Alec and Pearl Padamsee leading us, how else could it be? Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. And I remember the last thing, which I know you haven't asked me this question, but the last thing I did with Alec was the Shakespeare readings. And that was absolutely magnificent, where I did a solo from Lady Macbeth, and then I did another one with Jerson. Now, both of them have unfortunately passed away, two big doyens of the theater. And I remember Alec telling me that time, we have to do Caesar, and we have to do Caesar as a female, and you're
Oh my
going to be
God.
playing Caesar.
Wow.
And I read as Caesar. I even read it Kitab Khana. We read it many other places, in theaters, in offices, in institutions, in colleges. And I read Caesar, and he said, my next plan is to plant you right there as a female Caesar. If Indira Gandhi could do it, why not you? So that was it.
Absolutely. But that must have been some powerful experience, even to, bring those qualities to the fore and to as a woman Caesar. My God.
Very challenging, very challenging.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he had faith in me. The big
Yeah.
thing was when someone up there is, who's so guiding you so beautifully, tells you, hello, you can do it and you will do it. And he has the faith in you, then you say, fine, I will do it. So he had the faith, really.
And look, your what can I say? Your iconic performances are there for all of us to see. So his faith was justified, I would say.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. It's been the most magnificent time of my life, has been my time in the theater. If I look back, that was the thing that thrilled me the most, the times when I was the happiest, was when I was in the theater, really fulfilled, really totally fulfilled. And the last thing I did was also very wonderful. It was a little role, but it was a beautiful role as Mrs. Higgins. Henry,
Oh,
his mother, yes, and My Fair Lady. And
yeah, my fellow.
it was really wonderful, Gauri. And the last scene I played, when I was walking off the stage, the audience just, I don't know how it was, but they automatically stood up and clapped. And it was just so wonderful to get that kind of accolade. It was just beautiful. Great.
You said that for you it was marvelous. I want to veer a little bit and talk about some of your work in theatre involved intimate role play. So I want to ask you, was your husband or your family, were they largely indulgent of that? When you did these kissing scenes, or you did some of the more powerful, like Blanche Dubois, and that was a really scary scene, some of them. So
Yes, yes. No, but my husband was so sure of himself. That's all I can say. He was so sure of his love for me and my love for him, and our happiness together was so much there that he didn't even question it. He didn't. I don't even remember him ever asking me, "Are you doing a love scene in this play?" He never
wow.
even asked. He just came to the first night and he saw my rehearsals. He came to the first night. He sat in the second or third row, which was the best row to sit in. And he would have a particular cough like he would do, and I would know that he was
He's in
there
the
in the
audience.
audience. That's it. And then
Lovely.
I catapulted myself into the role, and he was always so encouraging. Gauri, if you do not have a home background, a home life that is encouraging, you cannot do well out there.
Absolutely. It takes a village.
Yes,
The
really.
whole, everybody behind you.
Yes, true. Absolutely.
So I'm going to move from theater a little bit and come to, you did radio. And then you did, again, I keep using the word iconic because it's so synonymous with whatever you've done in your career. But literally the iconic What's the Good Word quiz show that so many may recall watching as they grew up. TV and technology have evolved greatly since the 80s and 90s, Sabira. But if you were to name one favorite thing of those past days on TV, what would it be?
The TV was very natural in those days. It wasn't
Yeah.
as technical like it is today. So it was like going on a small little stage, and we had our studio audience, which was a very nice little happy audience on the side, and reacted to everything that was said and that was done. And we had something live, which was very interesting on What's the Good Word. We had somebody coming out, and a chef coming out and doing certain things with the food, and they would have to guess what that particular cutting was called. Or we had a ballet dancer coming, or we had an Indian dancer coming. We had some origami, I remember. We had so many interesting things to make it a happening thing. So even though technologically we were not very well equipped, and it was simple markings on the blackboard, just the 12 and the 15 and the 25 coming up, just as little figures. But we were so sincere in our delivery of the program that it was such a huge success. And till today, some of the teenagers I have in my workshop, because I do special workshops for teenagers, they have their parents, and the parents all come and want to take a photograph with What's the Good Word. So that how iconic it was, and that's how people remember it today. Also, I'll tell you one other thing. It was the only English program there.
Correct.
There was nothing else you could. There was Phul Khile Gulshan Gulshan in Hindi, and there was some Marathi program, Amchi Manse, Amchi Mati, Amchi Manse.
Amchi Barnes.
Yeah, that was on.
Yeah.
And otherwise, the only English program that people could tell their children, hey, watch this program and learn something from it, was What's the Good Word. So that's how I think also it was so popular for that reason.
But what you mentioned, that leads me to my next question, because as you say, your career played out in the most interesting of times, that is of not just the burgeoning of the English language theatre, but also TV, as you say. So who or what would you say shaped your worldview in both mediums?
Theatre.
You can even say who, if not what.
Well, Adi Marzban played a big role in my growing up on television. He was a guiding force. I had to, the biggest part, Gauri, was not the actual doing of the program. That I found very easy, very happy to do, but the research that went behind it. So tell me, there was nothing like Google in those days?
Correct.
I had to sit with, with books and tomes and encyclopedias and stuff and find out all the answers to what I was going to be giving to the audience and mark them and keep them, because somewhere along the line, someone would write and say, I don't think this was the correct answer. This should have been the correct answer. And I would have to come forth with the right, with the right reference and everything. So that was, I think, one of the most difficult times that I went through, was the research part of it. And then also the mail that we used to get, because in those days, there was nothing like email. It was all letters that were sent to Doordarshan. And there was a special room that was kept, you wouldn't believe it, a special room only for the mail for What's the Good Word. It had sackfuls of mail, just sacks, gunny bags full of mail. I had to dive down, get in a handful, bring it out, and ask those people to come and take part, because so many people wanted to take part. So I would get it from all over the country, and I could just go down, dive into that bag, take out a handful, and then go through it, and then call them over. We had to call them over to Doordarshan, test them, give them a run and see how they spoke, because you just couldn't put them on TV just like that.
Yeah.
They might just turn around and be able to say nothing. So all that, there was a lot of hard work that went in. It looked very glamorous when you saw it, but there was a heck of a lot of hard work that went into that program. And that's the one thing that I really remember.
Wow. That really is quite impactful, listening to all that went behind. And now they have the researchers and they have teleprompters and everything. It's a different world now, comparatively. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So now I'm going to go switch tracks and go straight to Studio 29. You became the force behind one of Mumbai's premier discotheques, beloved discotheque, Studio 29. So I keep using this word. I have to, so iconic that people remember it now. The model fraternity remembers it now. Everybody remembers it now. So I want to know, tell us a little bit about the Mumbai of those times. Was it a more genteel society? How would you rate it compared to now? Because you saw it all. They all came.
Yes, it was like people knew people, everybody knew everybody. So it was a society that literally fed on each other. And like couples would come in and they had met like 4 days ago, and they would again meet again at the studio. They would sit down and have a drink, etc. And I kept the studio alive by injecting it with new things all the time. There were fashion shows, there were jazz concerts, there was ballet, there was theater. There were all kinds of things that happened in the studio to keep it alive. Because let's face it, how long can you dance? And how much can you dance? After a while, speaking to a person across the table, having a drink, going on the floor, grooving away, there is a limit to that. So something must be done to inject it. Now, that's again where my theatrical instincts came into fore. Because I said, hello, let's give them something to really keep them going. Just keep them alive, just keep them jumping. So ballet concerts and jazz and pianists coming in and dancers coming in and mimics coming in and all kinds of things. Boney M came in. Boney M,
Oh
the
my
famous
God.
Boney M, yes, they came into the studio and they entertained. It was just unbelievable. It was a really happening place. And I must say this injection of new things that took place was really carried on the studio right through its life.
You had even kept a closet full of clothes for the models who used to come and dance, didn't you?
Yes, I had gone to London at that time, and I brought all these gold tights and silk tights and all kinds of things, and tops and hats and caps and masks and all kinds of things that people could use. And they would, and they wanted to, for a normal night also, if they just wanted to ask staff, bring us this masks and bring us this caps and all that, they would give it to them and they would be grooving away with this, so that felt a little bit different. Otherwise, they all felt the same old. So, I had this thing about people wanting to try new things. So that's how I did this, because I knew that people do get tired of being in a groove. and they want to move out and do different things all the time. I see different things. Seeing different things is what really was all about.
That's fabulous. Your world of ideas that you brought along and people, reacted to those and it just took off from there. And I think after that, you became really, really, I want to actually, we're almost 10 minutes out. So I'll quickly ask you the last two questions before we finish. Out of all the beauty queens you've trained in etiquette, which one remains your favorite and why?
Well, that is a difficult question and a trifle unfair, but I will answer it because it's because
it is unfair. It is, but I still want to know.
Yes, but well, there were two of them really, Priyanka Chopra and Lara Datta. Both of them were really unbelievable in their own way. Priyanka was such a learner; she just wouldn't leave me. I used to go to a university at that time to teach English. And it was with students of 17, 16, 17-year-olds and things like that. And I used to ask Priyanka all these questions of the regular questions that I ask at the Miss World competition, etc. And she would say, I'm coming to the college with you. I said, so no, these girls will not be able to interact with you. So she said, no, they will be. She's telling me that they will be because their ideas and your ideas, ma'am, are so different. They will be asking me very, very young people's questions. And that is also a question that I might get, that kind of question. So let me come there and I'll sit down quietly, listen to everything you're saying. And at the end, you give me about 15 minutes and I will answer all their questions. So wherever I went, whether it was to a workshop for an office or to Tata's or wherever I had gone, she would be coming there with me, pursuing me, being after me, not letting me rest, saying, no, ma'am, I have to be there because I have to learn. And the way she knocked off her accent was unbelievable because she spoke with a nasal accent,
She was in the US. She had studied in the US.
In the US, yes. She was there for 2 years. So she picked up that nasal twang. I said, we can't have a girl representing India speaks to say, no, thank you, kind of thing, We have to speak a proper British type of English. So
Correct.
She knocked it off. She was so smart, so clever, so quick in learning. So she knocked it off. And Lara came just as a modulated beauty. She was just so elegant. She spoke so well. I remember those days we used to train. We didn't have no fancy training place like a hotel, and even there was no air conditioning in those days. We used to meet in a school room. And
Wow.
Lara was there in that schoolroom and she came and she said, ma'am. And the way she said, ma'am, I just melted my heart. She spoke so well and with such a well-modulated tone. And she was beautiful. So the two things combined together completely, yes, all the way.
Wow. Listening to that, it makes me want to listen to you forever. But I think we're running out of time. So one last question before I throw it out open to the audience. If you had to change anything at all in the way that you have lived your life, Sabira, what would it be?
Well, I didn't have the chance to go to college. So if that's the one thing that I could change, I would put myself through college and get a degree. That's what I would like to do. That's what I could have done, but I got married so young and then the family was growing and then the theater was there. So there wasn't any chance to go to a formal college education. Though I did a year abroad when I was in Switzerland, I learned French and psychology as well. Yeah, there was psychology as well, which was wonderful. In psychology taught in English, and of course the rest of it, everything else in French. So no, that was a very enriching phase in my life, and I'm thankful that I had it. But if I had to have something, I would definitely choose to go through a college education.
So all you youngsters listening in, please know that college is very, very important.
Very important indeed, yes. It's just for
It's
your
been
own self-respect, if nothing else.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Sabira. I wish we could go on and on, but now I'm going to open it out to audience questions. I'm
Okay.
asking the questions on behalf of the audience, the ones that have come in. So
All
I'm
right.
going to start now. The first question: in today's time, beauty pageants are attracting comments about objectification of women's bodies. What would you have to say?
Well, I don't believe in that. I think that women go in for beauty competitions because they are there to represent themselves, and they say, hello, I am good looking. So come on, take notice of me. I have arrived. There's nothing wrong in that. There is no kind of thing that, hello, it's demeaning for a woman to stand there for a beauty competition and not and be able to display her talents for everyone to see. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great that a woman stands out and does that. And I say bully to all the girls going up there. In fact, recently I had a young lady of about 35, 40 who came in and she wants to go for the Mrs. World competition. Now, mind you, she'd never seen the stage. She hardly spoke good English. She learned English. She learned how to answer the questions, and she took up the challenge. And she started respecting herself, and her family respected her far more. So that's it.
I just want to, just before I go on to the next question, you also, when you talk about respecting yourself and respecting your family, in your book, you talk about having lived in Bhavnagar for some time. And that was very, very like a traditional setup. And then you came to Bombay and you did Studio 29. You straddled both very, very efficiently. How did you manage that?
I think I'm a very adaptable human being. I adapt to the situation as it comes. If I have to go to the South Pole, I'll adapt to that as well. So I guess I'm just one of those people that the occasion comes in and you take
just
the
do it.
occasion. Yes, you just take it, you dig into it, and you just do the best job that you possibly can.
Because there were two different worlds completely.
Absolutely. To straddle both of them was quite difficult. And coming to the quietness of Bhavnagar, doing nothing the whole day long except going to learn some Gujarati cuisine and then bringing up the children, and that was it.
But you did that.
Yes, I did that. And I enjoyed it. I think it was part of my growing years too, a different kind of growing up. I think they all contribute. Everything contributes to your growth.
To who you become eventually.
Yes, eventually. Yes, exactly.
So, 3 things you've learned in your life so far. Another audience question.
Oh, 3 things I've learned in my life. Patience. Patience that I've learned patience. I've learned forbearance. I've learned tolerance. Tolerance is a big thing. I really, honestly, to tell you the truth, whoever's asked me that question, apart from anything else, I don't remember really having lost my temper. You might think a person who doesn't lose their temper is colorless or something like that. But I don't think you should lose control of yourself. The temper is there, but that you don't lose it. So I control my temper. I call the person, I tell them this is going wrong. Don't let this happen and do it this way. And I get what I want. That's what's important. If you lose control, you lose your temper, nothing happens. You're not getting any result out of that.
You've never lost your temper?
No, I've never lost my temper.
Wow.
I don't think, I mean, I might have said, I don't care what you say, or something like that, maybe once in a while, but that's about it. I don't like to lose control of myself.
Wow, that is commendable. It's commendable to even listen to from a person who loses her temper quite often.
Really, Gauri.
But I like control too, exactly like you. And it's important to know,
Yes.
So, interesting words of advice. This question is from Gauri. What has been the most difficult experience?
Most difficult thing that I've been through was my husband's passing away. I mean, that's the most difficult thing that I went through. I just, though I knew it was going to happen, still, when it really happened, I found it very hard to accept. I accepted it because that's what you have to do in life, and you have to go along with the tide. But honestly, that was the most difficult part of my life, and I I really think about it with a lot of sadness, but also with much happiness because of the great times that we had together. So I
And the
hold that.
support he was to you
It
all
was
through,
just
right?
unbelievable support. I couldn't, honestly, Gaurav, and everybody else out there, I couldn't have done what I did unless I had his support. So remember that support is very important. Support for your children, support for your spouse. That's the most important thing. Give them that support, and you'll see how they blossom.
I hope you've listened, Gaurav, to that advice. Simone wants to know, do you watch TV today and which program do you enjoy?
I only watch the news. I watch maybe some movie on Netflix, or I'll watch it on YouTube or something like that. But otherwise, I am an avid news watcher. I watch CNN, I watch the BBC, I watch some Indian channels, about 5 or 6 Indian channels, WION being one of my favorites. I like to know what's happening in this world, and I read the papers in the morning, and then I, of course, watch the news. So that's my foray into TV. I'm not a great TV fan.
Someone wants to know, what's your idea of beauty?
Oh, beauty! This sounds like a Miss India question.
Yeah, it does.
But and they would turn around and say what I taught them to say, that beauty is really inner beauty. So that is what it is all about. And it's not outward beauty, it's not outer beauty, but the inner self being beautiful and reconciling to your conscience. When you reconcile with your conscience, you become beautiful inside. And then you show that to the outer world.
Wow. On that note, I want to, Shreya is asking, your life has many dimensions: actor, coach, wife, mother. Which has been the most important to you?
Well, the most meaningful, let's say, has been my theater. I've primarily, above everything else, I just love the theater. And that has been the most important thing in my life, being a theater person. And then, of course, being a mother.
Yeah.
Next thing, being a mother, bringing up your children, seeing that they're happy, seeing that they're well adjusted. Of course, that's so there are 2 sections, really. One can't just say they're one most important thing, but my children, they came first, and then my theater. So those were the 2 most important things.
So we've got 3 minutes left. I'm going to just tell you 2 more questions, and then we'll have to wind up. Do you feel that there is a vast change in the etiquette of the 20th and 21st century, or is etiquette timeless? This is from Sunil.
Sunil, I tell you, etiquette is timeless. It is the same like it was a few centuries ago too, that you got up when a woman came into the room. You saw that somebody, well, they didn't have elevators then, or lifts. You see that a lady goes into the lift first after you stand outside and let the lady go first. You help somebody with their bag when they are at the airport, getting down from the aircraft. You look after that person whom you see next to you or near you. And that is true etiquette, feeling kindness for people. So again, the kindness of strangers, strangely enough, comes into this. It winds its way everywhere. And I feel that in etiquette too, this is very important. Etiquette hasn't changed much. It's
that kindness of strangers has been a beating rhythm in your worldview and in your life and on your stage performances, Sabira.
Yes, it has. And it's true. It is. I always feel that when I think of Blanche and I think of that last word, I still feel tears in my eyes. I just can't forget about her. It's just so.
It's a powerful role, and it was powerful for you playing it.
It was a killing role. It really, at the end of it, you felt totally drained.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my last question, you have been a very integral part of cultural Mumbai. Do you feel Mumbai is still a cultural megapolis? Sunita.
Sunita, I think still culturally we are very much there. I just look at the theater that we have, this Tata theater that is there, the kind of performances we have there, the beautiful music that emanates from them, all the cultural sounds and stuff that we have coming from the Tata theater and the Philharmonic Orchestra, the Orchestra of India, the jazz concerts that we have. I think everything is there, but you should look for it. That's the only thing. It's not so much in your face as it was in the earlier years. But if you look for it, you will see it, especially in the Tata Theatre and in the Jamshed Baba Theatre, which is the most happening place, according to me. I love going there for concerts and evenings. It's so nice, cultural. You meet people, and sometimes the Tata people have a little bar at the end of the hall where members of the SOI, the Symphony Orchestra, can go in there after listening to the orchestra, have a glass of wine, have a sandwich, and enjoy themselves. So civilized, such a lovely way to spend an evening. I think culturally we are all there. Yes.
Wow. I hope that's answered your question, Sunita. I'm afraid I have to wind up, but I will. There is somebody asking for one last one. Will you take it, Sabira?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So Maitra asks, how long did the book take and your discipline to write a few words?
Well, the book took about a couple of years. It was quite a long job because we used to meet once a week with Mitali, who co-authored, the book with me. And she used to come for endless cups of coffee, and we used to have bitter chocolate and coffee and have meetings in the morning and extending into the afternoon. And she would very patiently make notes of what I was speaking about. And it was great fun. It was an amazing thing that you go to the past and you think about it. You don't think about it on a daily basis, but when you're faced with writing a book, then of course you're thinking about the past all the time. And it comes out to be so alive for you. Like yesteryear seems to be just something that was there in your mind, but when you're writing a book, the whole thing becomes alive again.
You're reliving it.
You're reliving that moment, you're reliving that time, and that's what's so wonderful. I would urge everybody, wherever they are, if you can, please write a book. It's most rewarding.
This is the book, A Full Life. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Sabira. It's been a pleasure talking to you on behalf of Tata Lit Live. I want to say thank you before Reena comes in and says a few words.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've been so kind, Gauri. Been so interactive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabira and Gauri, for taking us down memory lane. As I was mentioning, we've grown up watching your shows, your theater, and very inspiring. And you are our benchmark. So thank you so much for writing the book, and for all the youngsters who did not get the opportunity to watch you at that time. I think the book is a very good way for them to see what your life is all about and what you stood for. Thank you so much for such a candid conversation, Sabira.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Also, let me tell you, the book is very easy to go through. It's not a difficult book to read. It's very, very readable. It's very easy to read. So I'd urge you all to read it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to many such conversations, and all the very best for your book.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of Literature Live, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.